Hello everyone, hope you are all doing well. I am Vidyashree. In this video, I will be discussing teaching aptitude from paper 1 for UGC NET and KSET examination. Here in this video, I will be discussing the concept and objectives of teaching, levels of teaching, characteristics and basic requirements of teaching. Without wasting time, let's directly start the video. At first, let us understand what is this concept of teaching. So, teaching is a part of teaching learning process, and teaching is required to bring specific changes in a person according to the need of his society and environment in which he is living. A person's behavior needs certain modification according to the environment where he lives or according to the society where he is living. So these specific changes in the behavior of a person can be obtained by teaching. Now, according to the traditional concept, teaching is that act which imparts instruction to the learners in a classroom situation. Traditionally, the concept of teaching means that giving instruction for pupil in the classroom. So in the classroom environment, whatever the instructions that we provide to pupil, that we call it as teaching with respect to the traditional concept. But according to the modern concept, teaching causes pupil to learn and acquire desired knowledge, skills, and also desirable ways of living in society. So this is the modern concept of teaching. So teaching is the one which imparts desirable changes in the pupil according to the needs of society, means where he is living. Also is the one which imparts desired knowledge as well as skills. Teaching is a process in which learner, teacher, curriculum, and the other variables. What are these variables that we are going to discuss further? Okay. So learner, teacher, curriculum, and other variables are organized systematically and psychologically. So there is a particular way, right? Systematic and psychological way they are arranged so as to attain some predetermined goals. So certain goals that are been set. Okay, in order to achieve that goal, how teacher, pupil, curriculum and other variables are organized. That process we call it as teaching. Teaching is not an act because it is dynamic in nature. So teaching is not static, it is dynamic, means it is continuous process. Okay, so that's why we call it teaching as a process. Since it is dynamic, we call it as a process. Let us understand what does teaching mean. So this teaching is a process. As I already told, since it is dynamic in nature, teaching is a process. So what this process is, it's a process in which one individual teaches or he or she instructs another individual. So a process in which one individual is teaching or instructing another individual is nothing but it is teaching. So this teaching is considered as an act of imparting instructions to the learners in the classroom situation. In a classroom situation, if you are instructing another individual to do certain task, that is what we call it as teaching. So it is watching systematically. So teaching is watching another person in a systematic way so as to change his behaviors. So the behavioral changes is achieved through teaching so that person can live in his surrounding environment or in the society where he is living. According to Dewey, he considers teaching is manipulation of the situation. The situation is manipulated by teaching. So where learner acquires skills, learner is developing new skills and insight with his initiation. Now it's time for us to look into a few important definitions of teaching. So according to H.C. Morrison, teaching is intimate contact between the more mature personality and a less matured one. So here, more matured one is giving instructions to the less matured one. Okay, that's what he calls teaching. So there is an intimate connection between more matured one and less matured one. According to Jackson, teaching is a face-to-face encounters between two or more persons, one of whom tends to affect certain changes in the other participants. So here he is telling about a teacher and student. So it's a face-to-face encounter between teacher and student, where teacher intends to affect certain changes in the student. According to H.B. Howe and James K. Duncan, teaching is an activity with four phases: a curriculum planning phase, instructing phase, and an evaluating phase. So they tells there are four phases: curriculum, planning phase, instructing phase, and evaluating phase. So the activity which comprises of these four phases is called as teaching according to J.B. Howe and James K. Duncan. So their definition presents the organizational aspect by which we can describe and analyze the teaching process. N.L. Gage presents the democratic point of view. His definition for teaching is interpersonal influence aimed at changing the behavioral potential of another person. According to Clark, teaching is defined as teaching refers to the activities that are designed and performed to produce in students' behavior. So these are the various important definitions of teaching. Moving on to study the objectives of teaching. The major objective of teaching is to bring desired change in the pupils. So what changes that are expected in the pupil, those changes are achieved by teaching. The second is acquisition of knowledge. Pupils should gain knowledge after teaching. Then development of understanding. So one should develop understanding. So that is the objective of teaching. Then the development of conceptual, intellectual and subject specific skills. Pupil or student should develop conceptual understanding, intellectual and subject specific skills has to be acquired by the student. The next objective is development of values. So teaching should be in such a way as to develop values in the students. It is to shape behavior and conduct. Behavior and conduct has to be shaped by teaching. The next objective is formation of belief. So teaching helps in acquiring new experiences and ideas. And this teaching may also help in performing constructive tasks. The objective of teaching is also to provide a social and efficient member of society. So through these objectives, the main focus of teaching is to bring the behavioral changes, the desired behavioral changes among the pupil. Let us understand about the nature and characteristics of teaching. So teaching is a complete social process. So this is the nature of teaching. It is a social process. Now the question, why teaching is a social process? You can see teaching is undertaken for society and by society. So teaching is undertaken for society and by society with the never changing social ideas. It is not possible to describe the exact and permanent nature of teaching. So we cannot tell what is the exact nature or what is the permanent nature of teaching, but we can tell it is a social process. Why it is social process is because it is undertaken for the society and by the society. Next point is that teaching is giving information. So what information is given through teaching? Okay, teaching tells students about the things they have to know and students cannot find themselves. So here the role of teaching is that it should tell the things to the students which they do not know or which they cannot find themselves. In order to provide this information, a teacher should know this information in the beginning, right? So teacher should know the things, means teacher has to have the knowledge. Along with this knowledge, teacher should have a good communication, means a teacher should be able to communicate the information that he or she has. So good communication of knowledge is the essential part of teaching. It's only when a teacher has knowledge and good communication is there, he or she can communicate the knowledge he is having with the students. So that is the most important and essential point of teaching. Teaching is an interactive process. So why teaching is interactive? Because there is an interaction between teacher and student as well as the teaching materials. This interaction is essential for the student to learn. So it's required for the guidance, progress and development of students. Teaching is a process of development and learning. This teaching causes a change in behavior. Next point tells us that teaching is an art as well as science. So teaching is art because it requires certain skills, talents and creativity. So it is arts. Now coming to the point why teaching is science. Because a systematic procedure has to be followed during this process. So therefore teaching is science as well as art. Teaching is face-to-face encounter. Teaching is observable, measurable and modifiable, means you can observe the teaching process, means what is happening, what teacher is giving instructions to students, and you can measure the process, how much has been acquired by the student. Also you can modify the process. Teaching is a skilled occupation. Teaching facilitates learning. So teaching can be a conscious process or it can be unconscious process. Teaching is from memory level to reflective level. So we are going to study what this memory level and reflective level. Okay. So teaching starts from memory level and it proceeds till reflective level. Teaching is a continuum of training, conditioning, instruction and indoctrination. So teaching is a continuous process where it involves training, conditioning, instructions and indoctrination. A good teacher has a certain qualities. Now let us look what are the qualities of a good teacher. A good teacher should have mastery over the subject. So one who knows the subject thoroughly can impart knowledge on that particular subject. Along with this subject mastery, a teacher should have good communication to impart his knowledge to the students. A good student has to be accountable, means what qualities a teacher expects from his students, same qualities he should be having. A good teacher has to be dedicated and determined. So teacher has to be dedicated and determined to his work. It is because only then he can provide good knowledge to his students. A good teacher has to be caring and compassionate. A teacher should care for his students and he should understand what students are going through and he should assist them to bring them up and then impart knowledge related to subject or to bring about the desired behavioral changes. A good teacher has to be adaptable. It means that a teacher should change according to the circumstances. If a student is facing difficulty to learn the concept that is taught in the class, a teacher should find a new method, such a way that he can make every student in the class understand what he is teaching to them. He should understand the personalities as well as interest of every student and accordingly he has to plan how he can bring about the desired task. A good teacher is also empathetic, which means that he has to understand his students' problem inside and outside the school and he or she should help them coming out of the problems. A good teacher is engaging and evolving. Means a teacher should always try to grab the student's attention in the classroom and he should be successful. Then along with the ability to grab the student, he should be working continuously on the improvement as well as growth of student. A good teacher is organized and patient. So what does this mean? It means that keeping things neat and in order to get better result. So a good teacher is always organized and patient. A good teacher is kind and trustworthy. A teacher should be the one who always provides courage to the student. A good teacher is inspirational. Means a teacher should always inspire his student to do better. He should build confidence in his students and should encourage to achieve more with respect to his academic career or might be personal. The teacher should inspire the student and make them dream more and help them to achieve their dream by motivating the students. A good teacher is forgiving and fearless. Also, good teacher is joyful. It means that a teacher should maintain a good, friendly, joyful environment in the class so that the student can learn without any fear and acquire a good knowledge. There are different levels involved in teaching. The three levels of teaching are memory level of teaching, understanding level of teaching, and reflective level of teaching. As you can see from this triangular diagram, memory level teaching is the base level of teaching where it is least thoughtful, and understanding level is thoughtful and reflective level is most thoughtful. Memory level is the base level where least importance is given to the thought process. Now let us consider these three levels of teaching one by one. A few factors related to memory level teaching (MLT) are listed here. Let's go through the points one by one. Memory level teaching emphasizes on presentation of facts and information. So just you need to focus on the facts and information, means how you can present the fact or information. It's all about cramming. Means whenever it is required, you quickly go through that. That's what we call it as cramming. So memory level teaching is nothing but it's all about cramming. So whenever needed, quickly you are going through the facts and information. That is what is memory level teaching. Knowledge or information is gained by the learner through the memorization. So memory level teaching gives importance to memorization. Less importance is given to thought process. As you already know, this is the initial stage of teaching, and this induces the habit of rote learning. Means memorization is given importance in memory level of teaching. MLT provides students with the ability to retain and reproduce the learned subject. Memory level teaching covers only the knowledge-based objectives of Bloom's taxonomy. Means that students here learn to identify, recall or remember the objects, events, ideas and they retain them in their memory. So basically this memory level teaching emphasizes on cramming, rote learning or memorization. Student just has to remember and reproduce the things that they have learned. In this memory level teaching, teacher plays a dominant and important role. So teacher is the main authority here. Speaking about the evaluation systems with respect to memory level of teaching, it can be oral test, written test or easy type of examinations where the exam or test should be so simple that it can be acquired through the rote learning. Just memorized things have to be reproduced in the examination. That type of evaluation system is used with respect to memory level of teaching. So with respect to this type of teaching, role of teacher is prominent. Teacher is the primary and active participant in the memory level teaching. And the role of student is secondary. So student plays a secondary role and student is passive with respect to the memory level of teaching. So you should remember this. Teacher is active participant in memory level of teaching and student is passive with respect to memory level of teaching. Memory level of teaching does not improve intelligence and it does not increase the students' capability. It is because the importance is given only for memorization or rote learning process. As a result, thought process will decrease, which will not improve the intelligence or increase the students' capability. But this memory level of teaching is required for the other type of teaching levels. Memory level of teaching is retained from Herbartian theory, where his theory supports that the young children's mind is ready for pursuing themselves and the world that's around them. So their mind is ready for great mass of factual information, including the concepts, elements, structures, models, and theory. These young children can acquire these information and they retain this information related to a large number of object materials through memorization. So he observed that young minds can learn quickly by observing the things that's present around them in the world, or they can learn the things to themselves. So here how they learn is mainly because of memorization. So based on this theory, memory level of teaching is developed. Memory is classified into different type. One is immediate memory. So when a recall is immediate, we call such a memory as immediate memory. Then we have permanent memory. So in this case, recalling of material for a longer time. Then we have personal memory. While recalling any experiences, we remember our personal experience. Such a memory we call it as personal memory. Then we have impersonal memory. So recalling from books and other companions. Next is active memory. So which make efforts to recall past experiences or recalling answers in case of examination. So that is what is active memory. When we recall any experiences without effort, such a memory we call it as passive memory. Then we have mechanical memory or physical memory. So this is where our body is becoming habitual of doing any task repeatedly. Such a memory we call it as mechanical or physical memory. Then another type we have is rote memory, where cramming facts without understanding. We need not understand anything, we just memorize the thing. That's what we call it as rote memory. Another type we have is logical memory. So it is to learn something by using intellect and it is needed. The second level of teaching we have is understanding level of teaching. So the prerequisite for the understanding level of teaching is memory level teaching. So this is the next step. Understanding level of teaching helps to build the thinking level of students. It helps to make use of their acquired knowledge based on previously known facts as well as subjects. So this understanding level of teaching helps in building the thinking level of students. In this level of teaching, teacher explains the students about the relationship between certain facts as well as principles and teaches the students how these principles can be applied. Understanding level of teaching helps to improve the thought process and it focuses on mastery of the subject. It provides more opportunity for the students to develop the skills of memory and insight. Coming to the evaluation systems with respect to the understanding level of teaching. Here, the evaluation is mainly based on the objective type questions and essay type questions. Both student as well as teacher plays an active role with respect to the understanding level of teaching. So both teacher and students are active. Whereas with respect to the memory level teaching, teacher is active participant and student is a passive participant. According to Morrison, understanding level of teaching is divided into 5 steps. First one is exploration, where the previous knowledge of students is tested. The second step is presentation. Content is presented, diagnosis and recapitulation till student understands. So presentation is where basically information is provided to the student until he or she understand it. Third step is assimilation. So this is where generalization, individual activities or working in the laboratories, libraries are performed. Fourth step is organization. Fifth is recitation, where student presents the content orally. The last and important level of teaching is the reflective level of teaching. So here the memory level of teaching as well as understanding level of teaching forms the basis. This method of teaching is mainly problem centered. So the main objective of reflective level of teaching is to develop problem solving, critical and constructive, independent and original thinking. All these qualities are developed from the reflective level of teaching. At this level, the importance is given to identify the problem, defining the problem and finding a solution for this particular problem. So that's why the reflective level of teaching is called as problem centered. Students develop an original thinking and they build ideas to solve this particular problem. So that is the main focus of reflective level of teaching. From these points, now you can judge. Here the major focus is on student or pupil. So who is thinking and analyzing the situation critically and he is solving the problem. So here student is core and active as well as primary participant, whereas teacher becomes secondary and passive participant in this process of teaching. This reflective level of teaching is proposed by Hunt. According to him, this method is problem-centered teaching. So here the students are assumed to adopt some sort of research approach to solve a particular problem. And he tells that the classroom environment should be open and independent so that the student can think and solve the problem on his own. Hunt formulated various steps with respect to reflective level of teaching. So according to him, the first step is to create a problematic situation. Then student has to formulate and verify the hypothesis according to the problematic situation. Next step is data analysis and final step is testing the hypothesis that's around the problem. Coming to the evaluation type, here essay type test is used to evaluate the learning process and this teaching level is neither teacher centered nor subject centered but it is learner centered. So among the three different levels of teaching, reflective level of teaching is a learner-centered technique where learner is the main focus with respect to this level of teaching. Now let us quickly glance the differences between memory level teaching, understanding level teaching as well as reflective level teaching. Firstly, let us consider who has proposed these different levels of teaching. So memory level teaching is proposed by Herbert and understanding level of teaching is proposed by Morrison. Reflective level of teaching is proposed by Hunt. Speaking about the aims, MLT aims to make students cram the facts and figures. So emphasis is given on rote learning or memorization technique. Whereas the objective of understanding level is to enhance the understanding of the student with respect to a certain concept and grasp the idea and comprehend the meaning. Where the thought or thinking process is given importance with respect to understanding level. Now coming to the reflective level, here it emphasizes on developing higher level thoughtfulness in teachers as well as learners. A problematic situation is presented before the learner and he has to find the solution where he will be involved himself in a thought process so as to find a solution. Memory level teaching is a teacher-centered process, whereas understanding level is both teacher and learner-centered process. Reflective level of teaching is purely learner-centered process. Memory level of teaching focuses on stimulus response, whereas the understanding level of teaching deals with the generalization of principles. Coming to the reflective level of teaching, it is a problem-centered method and it works on finding solution to a given problem. Memory level teaching develops learners' ability to retain and recall, whereas the understanding level of teaching develops thinking ability among the students. With respect to reflective level, it develops reasoning, logic and imagination among the learners. Speaking about the basic requirements of teaching, we should have independent variable, dependent variable and intervening variable. So these are the three variables that are basically in the teaching process. Independent variable means it is teacher. Dependent variable implies learner. Intervening variable means between the dependent and independent variable, what are the variables present? They are called as intervening variable. So they are subject and the environment of the teaching process. These intervening variable helps in interactions between dependent and independent variables. I hope you will find this video helpful. If so, please do like and share the video among your friends and family. If you have not subscribed to my channel, please do subscribe and do not forget to press the bell icon to get notified about the upcoming videos. I'll meet you in my next video with a new topic. Thank you for watching. Stay connected, keep learning, take care, bye bye.